Hey entrepreneurs, it's AJ and welcome back to Business as Unusual, clarity and confidence during uncertain times. Today's topic is augmented intelligence. Well, kind of. It's actually artificial intelligence that I'm talking about. But I know how the interweb loves that term and people start throwing around the robots are coming to take our jobs spiel, right? And I didn't want you to be clouded with that sort of judgment. So I'm going to be using the term augmented intelligence here because you'll see what I mean. So, a few weeks ago, OpenAI released a platform called GPT-3. Now, it sounds really technical, and yes, there is a bit of technical stuff that I'm going to cover with you today, but I'm going to translate it into plain speak English, and I'll link below to the full resources that I use, because I really want you to get a sense of how this technology is going to enhance intelligence, hence the term augmented intelligence. It's going to amplify your abilities in whatever you do, make things more efficient. So it's not really about robots stealing jobs, it's more about making things more efficient. So with that in mind, GPT-3. So GPT-3 stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So, bit of a mouthful, but essentially what that is that it's named after a project by Google, and they did this thing called a transformer, not Autobots and Decepticons, a different transformer, right? In 2017, Google came up with this experiment for a transformer, and what it was an algorithm that predicted the likelihood that a word would appear amongst a set of other words. So for example, 1, 2, 3, exactly, right? So the word 3 would appear after the words 1 and 2, and it predicted that, okay? So the likelihood of that word would appear in. So OpenAI, which was founded by Elon Musk and a few other people, basically formed this concept, this project called GPT. And what they did was they basically took what's known as machine learning and created a data set, applied the machine learning algorithm against that data set, and it basically would predict lines of text. So you would enter a single line of text and then it would respond based on its data set, and then it would take a look at those two lines and create a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one, and keep going. And it filled up text. So generative text, okay? So this thing grew over the years. In 2018 was the first GPT, then 2018, 2019 was the second version, and now in 2020 they released the third version, and my God, it is really something special. It's definitely something special. So basically this data set that it took, it basically analyzed the entire internet. Everything that has been ever published online is part of this data set, and they took into consideration, as well as that, they took into consideration some digitized books on coding, different genres. So it's got a whole bunch of words in there that it's analyzed, and different contexts, different sort of genres, different, just a wide variety of things, a massive data set. And then they made they released it to the public a couple of weeks ago. And so you can access this tool, this GPT-3 tool, to do some really clever things. So one of the things that I want to give you two examples on how this thing is being used that blew my mind. Okay, so the first one is that this thing can actually write code for you based on what you describe to it. So you use natural language English and you write what you want this thing to do for you, and it goes and builds a code. Take a look.
The next example is a coding example. And so this is dbuild.co, and they're describing an application that is a basic to-do list application. And so what the software is doing is it's generating a React application, all of the functions and procedures, all of the things that are necessary to create a React component to handle to-do. And you can see it works.
Now, again, this is augmented intelligence. It's not stealing jobs from website designers or application programmers. No. For those of them who are entrepreneurially minded, they can take this tool and embed it into their business model and work out, well, instead of spending 10 hours on an application, they now need to spend like half an hour on it. And they can adjust accordingly, take on more work. It's an amplifier, right? And so that's really exciting. Now, the second use that blew my mind is from the legal world. And this is done by an entrepreneur whose name is Francis Jervis. And Francis runs Augmented. It's a company in the US that allows renters to check out prospective landlords, to research prospective landlords. And so Francis took this tool and ran it to see if it could translate between common sentences and legalese, so legal speak, okay? And this is what he came up with. So the first sentence is, my apartment had mold and it made me sick. And using GPT-3, that translated to, plaintiff's dwelling was infested with toxic and allergenic mold spores, and plaintiff was rendered physically incapable of pursuing his or her usual customary vocation, occupation, and or recreation. Another sentence, my landlord didn't maintain the property. And GPT-3 translates that as, the defendants have permitted the real property to fall into disrepair and have failed to comply with the state and local health and safety codes and regulations. Now, granted, that's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And look, I disagree with Francis's statement about this is going to put a lot of lawyers out of work. No, it's not. It really isn't. Because the smart and creative lawyers out there are going to look at this and go, you know what? This is going to open up a whole new level of revenue and a model of efficiency that my firm has never been able to do before. Because this is just a tool that amplifies current capabilities. I mean, think about it. Like if you were to replace your computer with a typewriter, you'd miss that additional functionality on offer, right? So that's what we're seeing with all these tools. Once they get refined and polished and get proven in industry, it's going to change the game. And that is what's so exciting. Now, look, full disclaimer, this tool it's not perfect, right? It's still got a long way to go. And it has one fundamental flaw or limitation about it as it stands today. And that is, it has no real model of the world. It cannot make sense, contextual sense between what it is spitting out. Essentially, you feed it some data, it takes that data, looks into its memory banks and spits out something else. It doesn't actually contextualize anything. The best way to help me describe this flaw is to read to you a paragraph that it spat out after Wired Magazine asked it a very simple question. Wired Magazine asked it, GPT-3, how come the tech community is really embracing you? Why are you such a big part of the tech community? And its answer was, I spoke with a very special person whose name is not relevant at this time. And what they told me that my framework was perfect. If I remember correctly, they said it was like releasing a tiger into the wild. Now that makes no sense whatsoever, which is the limitations of the GPT-3. It has no model of the world. It cannot connect ideas the way you or I can. And for that reason, and even if it improves, for that reason, what people should be paying attention to is arts and creativity. Because it's that heart-centered human stuff. That is what is going to work in the world moving forward as these tools develop and refine. Anything logical, anything sort of mechanical that has a process behind it, that'll be taken care of. But the heart-centered stuff and the emotional connection, that is what is a computer will never be able to replace. Well, not during my lifetime anyway. So with that in mind, entrepreneurs, I hope you enjoyed this episode, the second last episode of Business as Unusual, and with one more episode to go, and it's going to be an amazing episode, and I really hope you enjoy it. All right, entrepreneurs, that's me done. I hope you enjoyed learning about GPT-3. Check it out. Links are below to go and see what I read on this topic, and really just imagine how business could be recreated. All right, entrepreneurs, that's me done. My name is AJ Kulatunga. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to serving you in the last episode of Business as Unusual. Take care.